Helen. I slope from room to room, beautiful and bored to tears, paint doorways with an hourglass shadow. Most days I struggle to kick myself from bed, comb my hair, pace the kitchen's high waft of time. The tragedy is this. It's the second time for me, stolen, bagged like a prize goose and hauled from home, head clunking against his glowing armour, more swaggering mortals pulsing fleets. The first time it happened was Theseus. My brothers frost at our heels, raging, dragging their swords in the dust. This time, Aphrodite sold my heart for an apple, snatched hot from the snug of my ribs. They've always said my hair's hellish kink is enough to snare any godly heart. So wasn't it inevitable he'd sail through the doors with his monstrous fleet, hook me like a winning bass, tug me back to his shores? Blame the tide mark of salt that bends up my eye, blame my cheek's petal pinch. Blame the siren smooth bell of my hips, if you like, for this torrent of dust, this flaming horizon, these streets of skewered bone. Is this the face that launched 1,000 ships? I say, it is. It is.
Hecuba. When the sickness is gone, only heat is left. In these panting rooms, when my nightdress peels like chicken skin, I might wander about the house naked or in a sheet, belly protruding like a winning watermelon. A small child cleaved to every limb. Hector, Troilus, 18 and another on the way. I swell and leak, bleed and feed, cry like a beast when they come, never more prepared than the last time, slithering loose along the umbilical. But this one we conceived in a blaze. My hot little torch writhing out on a slipknot of snakes, they warned me his shriek would rupture cities, his bold heel capable of whipping up whirlwinds of talcum and smoke. When he came, I clasped him tight, begged like a dog to keep him. Heard his small cry balloon as I pushed him loose, my squirming, despised little omen. Dear Paris, believe me, I had no choice. I called for the knife in a stranger's voice.
Ariel. Girlhood gave me nothing to complain about. Daddy loved me fiercely, said my tale was a slick and marvellous thing, thick as a slapping tongue. But like a flower, I yearned for the sun, seeking those fronds of violet light, streaming watery and thin as seaweed stripped clean from the calyx. Daddy, I confess, I worshipped that boy like marble, adored the globes of his knees, cradled his treasured chest when the sails reefed slow and the mainmast snapped like a reed. Daddy, how the fantasy drowned so mutely. In tiny hours he poured me, useless as old barnacles, his smuggler's treasure, his dumb foundling, paddling my dreams like a dog in our sunken seabed. Now, at night, in the moon-smacked shallows, he spins me, still and silent as seashells.
Ursula. Wading skull deep through Neptune blue, she snags on polyps and shadows, trails her fins like reels. See her whipping whirlpools, circling coral to mill wheels. She asks me, voice fluting, to part her tail, split it clean as a wishbone. Begs, sharpen my hips to pincers. Real women don't work for free. In return, I demand the snip of her tongue, tiny, pink, hot as a hearthstone. Clamp the tip with a lobster claw, bottle it like a specimen, steam a salve from her gills. Behold, ladies, now she's spinning electric through shipwrecks and reeds, churning sand and seabed. Stiff as a bowsprit, Pretty lips bubbling, I let her learn the hard way how her voice would shrink in a masculine ear, oh so easily crushed barnacles small in his fist.
Leda. At first sight, I'll admit, my thighs coupled and burned for the jab of his beak, the Olympian wings miraculous as Augustian snow, huge and scorching like lightning. How could I have known the feathery plume blanching his back was filched, his water-slick approach, that cocksure tread already mapped when I saw the quiver of my own chest in those holy eyes, when I begged to be swallowed whole? Was it sin to feel myself plaited in his body like slow, cool rope, to claw at the sobering earth? No way to know he'd leave more than dirt, packed sour beneath the fingernails, track rings around my ribs deep as lakes, redder than shame. Listen. Now strange eggs thunder the globe of my belly, hips pulling like a bow at this phantom salt crusting my avian lips, the brush and scrape of quills up my spine, his fraudulent trace still nagging my skin, ungodly, like pond scum in the dark.
Hera. Zeus rolls belly first through the door, thunder wielder, god of gods. A dry crackle snaps the sticky air, a planet bumps absently against my heel. I swerve my eye, angle my hip from the chaise longue, say, I am a goddess. Swirling Merlot, tearing a blistered flatbread, it belches steaming air. Above us, a ceiling fan beats unnecessarily at the clouds. All day long, he has gazed from Olympus, eyed mortals, pectorals slick with wet oils, skirling thunderbolts, hissing jet streams of Hades red. A bloodbath warming the carpet. I know where the fucker has been. See it stiffen against his thigh, a swan arching its back on the lake. Greasy feathers, wet struggle. Sit, eat, I command, crunching slow, shells shattering all the right ways. The sky is white hot and leathery as hide the lobster's lacquer red. I lounge around, lapping marrow from the bones. He likes this. He likes the way I lick the shank slow and deliberate. I pour him a drink, toast his health, grin through the slats of my teeth. Cheers, you big godly bastard.
Cordelia. Once again, His Highness demands more than I can give. Speak, he says, twirling a sceptre like a baton, flaunting, billowing meadows, vines snaking the skies. Assume I love him, but tell him I can't heave my heart into my mouth, peel the retinas from my eyes like egg skin, blow the oxygen puffing my lungs to inflate his own. Sigh it like a saint, I'm sorry. His hollow crown rakes my dreams, slices kingdoms, eyes boyish, starving for love, pleading for quiet worship. Remind him, I'm craving to whisper, we are not wives, we are wild daughters. Assume I love him, if it helps. Lick danger from little words. Kiss the sad, white stubs of his majesty's toes. Anoint his temples if you wish, but for God's sake, tell him nothing.
Goneril Regan. All our lives we did as we were told. Sat stiff and pretty as English roses, whispered small placations at the whirl of Daddy's year. Girls, tell him you love him to death. We couldn't believe our luck as he set about carving kingdoms like Christmas turkeys, spat wishbones at the bitch like tiny venomous darts. Our sister, Cordelia, who'd always been first to pillow his lap, to douse her skin in his rain. He begged for our love like a spaniel, and we gave it out for the cool crowns circling our temples, trinkets furring with dust, kings curling at our feet like startled worms. Now we have him. Now we are queens. And later, when Daddy careened into our home, sloshing through storms, making a moat of the doormat, there were wildflowers hooked in his hair, madness ripe in his eye. How sharper than a serpent's tooth it is to have a thankless child. He screamed sterility upon us, squeezed womanhood into an egg. And so we flashed our gleaming fangs, bled rivers, sat pretty before the bite.
Cinderella. There are ways to disguise a girlhood spent at the bottom of the heap, to hide scour-chapped knuckles or mop-sloshed ankles, their clunking rock pool wetness. I cut the ballroom, steam my hemline over marble, a gold-spun glistening planet. Watch me tiptoe like a heron, trip, careless and coy, into his chest, invite his whisper. Who are you, beautiful creature? Midnight cracks, thunderous, seams unravel, a nipple exposes itself. He salivates, says he'll find me someday, forgets how he spun on an axis just yesterday when my cheekbones were cinders and ash. I slip from a stiletto, tease him with a lifted heel, a glance at the flushed arch, call back. I'm sorry, I just prefer waltzing with rodents.
Ugly stepsister. He skewed the angle, got it all wrong. My mission is this, to pour myself honey slick into the doll shoe he shrank in the midnight rain. They say princes like their women minuscule petaled thin, dainty-footed, but he's cupping it too loosely in his hand. Maybe I'm too clammy, my foot a nervy fish, but just watch. I have ways of shaping myself into glass. Even lilies, I say, need the earth patted into anchors around them. He pushes harder. From the hallway, Cinders looks slyly over her broom, rubs a nude heel. He scoops mine in his palm and lifts it, perhaps to kiss each toe in turn, my soul soaping over her coal-dust prints. A dazzling eye widens the keyhole, hands stiffen around the broom. Show him, I mouth, as he looks away. Striptease for him, darling. Your dainty face, wishbone waist, lift up your filthy foot.
Alice. He's straining in his dinner jacket, stacking saucers, sloshing tea to steamy ribbons, sputtering crumbs across the tablecloth when he bends to hear my voice. With a laugh like a kookaburra, he tells me there's no room at the table for a girl so small and neat, dainty as fine china, petticoat titmouth blue, and her headband perched like a crown. No time for squeaking opinion. When I widen my lips, he speaks through a mouthful of frosting. Here, we like our girls quiet as dormice, their questions curled inside teapots, out of earshot, rhubarb stewed. He sucks his fingers and smiles, makes a pendulum of his pocket watch. I shrink another foot, nearly slip from my chair. I want to tell the table of absurd dreamscapes, of scrambling after rabbits, trailing their bobbing tails, of slipping through mirrors silky as lakes. I can topple whole cities like precarious cards, but listen, here My syllables salsa away in smoke rings, hang like baubles from a haze whisper, cool decibels snagging on a cat's dazzling molar. In Wonderland, girls like me dwindle like dolls, stuff their mouths shut with cupcakes, swallow every mute morsel.
Queen of Hearts. Most of all, he's loyal, tedious, whipped like a cowering hound. I shrink him with orders outrageous, crunch gold to mulch. Across rose gardens demand devil red, for the sheer hell of it. My face blooms to a fat heart at the sight of them pale, moonish slivers of petal. Someone hasn't been listening. I hear them snigger between brush strokes, her menopausal majesty, her highness of hysteria. A pearl of sweat rolls cleanly between my cleavage. Look at me now, sucking gales into my lungs, ready to blow, thundering from heights like an eagle, but in truth I'm bored of beheadings, death-tolling decibels, of shunting my weight through gardens to keep the boys in line. These preposterous spade-specked props, two-dimensional, trembling like paper. Still more man than this matrimonial buffoon quivering under his crown, smacking jam from his lips. Let me tell you, girls, I'm bored out of my jewelled head in ornamental gardens, twirling the heart-print skirt the wrong side of the looking-glass, ruling over roses when I should be ruling nations.